animating and
fabulous evening started. Good evening, everyone. I'm Assistant Chief Carrie Ann Yerkes with Milwaukee Police Department Risk Management Bureau. I'd like to welcome you all to the Police and Fire Academy for this evening's Milwaukee Police Department's 2017 Spring Merit Awards ceremony, with music provided by the Milwaukee Police Band, the nation's oldest and proudest police band, led by band director, retired Lieutenant Karen Dubas. Thank you, Karen. Friends, family, and award recipients, thank you for being here to support your loved ones who exemplify what it is to be a Milwaukee police officer. Before we begin the ceremony, please allow me to introduce the dignitaries for tonight's event. When I say your name, could you please rise so the crowd can recognize you? Chief of Police Edward Flynn. City of Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett. The Executive Director of the Fire and Police Commission, Ms. Marinelle Regan. Alderman Chevy Johnson. Alderman Mark Borkowski. Alderman Terry Wachowski. And a few members of our executive staff, Assistant Chief William Jessup. Inspector Michael Brunson. Inspector Jutiki Jackson. Inspector Terrence Gordon, and Inspector Tom Stigler. You will also see various captains and lieutenants that represent the rest of the Milwaukee Police Department. Those are our districts, our divisions, and our bureaus. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Milwaukee Police Department Honor Guard. The Honor Guard is commanded by Captain Leslie Teeley. Thank you. You may take your seats. I just want to say again, thank you everyone for being here. Twice a year, we gather to honor members of our department for their heroism, bravery, compassion, hard work, and dedication. We hold the Spring Merit Award ceremony during Police Week, that is this week. Each of our ceremonies marks a new chapter in MPD's history. These police officers and community members exemplify our core values and guiding principles. The men and women of this department, sworn and non-sworn, continue to make us proud. You don't do what you do for medals, recognition, or extra pay, and many of the most selfless acts that you perform go unrecognized. Let me be the first of many to say congratulations on your award and thank you for your service. We are honored to have our first speaker tonight, who always makes it a point to come to every Academy graduation and our Merit Award ceremony. If you could please welcome Mayor Tom Barrett.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. Good evening. As we gather here tonight, I was thinking about a member of our family, our city family, who we lost earlier this spring. Ziggy, as he was affectionately known as, worked for the City of Milwaukee his entire career. He was the building inspector who was killed in the line of duty. And although he wasn't a police officer or a firefighter, I think all members of the police family, all members of the fire family, all members of the city family mourn his loss and are appreciative of the services that he rendered for the city. And given what we're doing tonight, I think it's appropriate we just take a moment of silence to think about him, to pray for his soul, and to reflect on his life. So let's please just take a moment of silence. For me, his loss was one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult moment I've had as the mayor of this city. And as tragic as that event was, and as horrific as that event was, that day, I was also very proud. I was very proud of our men and women of our Milwaukee Police Department, our Milwaukee Fire Department, as well as the building inspectors. But it was the police work that, to me, exemplified just the tremendous professionalism, the tremendous acumen, the tremendous caring that I have witnessed in this police department. The fact that the police were able to take different pieces of information within hours and solve the puzzle, if you will, of what had happened was, in this layperson's mind, nothing less than spectacular. And I want to begin tonight by thanking every member of the Milwaukee Police Department for your professionalism and for your commitment to our community. So what makes a city? What makes a city? Take 600,000 people, give or take a few hundred, put them in a 96 square mile area, add a lake, add some lagoons, add some parks, and poof, you've got a city. But there's more to a city than that. The city is more than the sum of its parts, of the people who live there. It's more the sum of the parts of the locations in the city. It's also the feel of the city, the tempo of the city, the rhythm of the city that makes a city a special place. And there's some people who don't like cities, who are afraid of cities, or think cities are bad places. I happen to love cities, and I happen to love this city more than any other city. And it's the people of this city that I love. The people of this city are the ones that I think make it an exciting place, a place where I have been proud to raise my family, and where I hope someday my children can raise their families. So who makes up the city? Well, of course, you've got the residents of the city, and they're important. And we're going to pay tribute to some residents tonight who went above and beyond the call of being a citizen and decided they were going to get involved in a situation that may have been harrowing, may have been life-threatening, certainly was something that they could have ignored. And it's people like that, those people who we're honoring tonight, that makes a city a special place. But there's another group of people that makes a city a special place, and of course, it's the police officers. It's the police officers who put themselves in places where most of us would never want to be. Because if you think about it for a moment, oftentimes the police officers are called to the worst moment of a person's life, whether it's death or accident or crime or a fire or you name it, a car accident. We ask police to come in, and then oftentimes we don't appreciate the work that they've done for us. But the reality is our police officers are also our residents. They're citizens of our community, and they have children, and they have families, and many of the families are here tonight, and I thank you for being here to support them. So they face the same pressures that we face in our daily lives, pressures of raising kids, pressures of knowing that not all the time at home they are the perfect spouse. Although maybe it's different for police officers than it is for mayors. Maybe you are the perfect spouse. I'm not sure. That's up for you to decide. But I think it's important for us to try to get to know each other on a personal basis. And what I mean by that is no one in this room is going to know 600,000 people. But I think that our lives are richer if we take the time to try to appreciate someone else's place in life, someone else's responsibilities in life. And that's why I often say, I want this to be a city where our residents can work with and respect our police officers. That's something that's very, very important to me. I want our residents to be able to work with and respect our police officers. And I also want this to be a city where our police officers can work with and respect our residents. And I know that's easy for me to say because I'm not the guy standing outside the bar at 3 in the morning. But I think if this city is going to work, it has to be a city where there's a two-way street of respect, where our residents respect our police officers and our police officers respect our residents. And tonight, in addition to seeing the valor, the professionalism, the acumen of our police officers, I think we're going to see many examples where our police officers have respected our residents, sometimes in situations where most of us would not be particularly respectful because they're such challenging situations. So as we move forward, again, I want to thank all of the members of the police department who are here. I want to thank all the citizens who are here. I want to thank all the family members who are so supportive. And remember, we have something special here. We've got a city that works. Do we have our challenges? Of course we have our challenges. What I often say is I screw up every once in a while just to stay in the news. But if everybody acts with good faith, if everybody tries to make this a better community, starting out with their own families, I'm confident that we are going to continue to move this great city forward. Thank you and have a good night.
I would now like to call up Chief Flynn to make some remarks for the evening.
Well, this is a very happy day for us in the midst of what is a solemn week. It is National Police Week. This next Saturday, the annual vigil will take place at the Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, in which the etched names of those officers who gave their lives in the line of duty this last year will be represented and unveiled for the first time. Tomorrow we'll, of course, be having our own Police Memorial Day here in Milwaukee County, where we will recognize the sacrifices of Milwaukee police officers from all the jurisdictions within the county of Milwaukee who've given their lives in the line of duty. In fact, it's 100 years ago this year that I believe 11 police officers in the city of Milwaukee died in the explosion of an anarchist bomb that killed them all in their station. It was the largest single-day loss of life for police officers in this country until 2001. So it is a solemn week. But it's also a week to recognize those values that so characterize our profession and so characterize the practitioners of our profession, which is you. This is a proud day for all of us. It's a proud day for you. It's a proud day for the members of your family who are gathered here with your spouses and parents and children to witness us celebrate your work. And it gives me great joy to do this. This is a tough job. It can be a grind. Trust me, it can be a grind for all of us. But we're in this because we care. We're in this because we believe in a core set of values that ask us to transcend our personal interests and frequently place the interests of others above our own, even at the risk of our safety. And tonight we'll be talking about combat situations, rescue situations, life-saving situations, meritorious arrests, circumstances in which people have rendered excellent service over time, or in which entire units have engaged in exemplary conduct that emphasizes how important teamwork and coordination of effort is for the successful protection of our community. All of those things we get to celebrate today in front of friends and family. So I'm going to just take this moment to thank each and every one of you for your commitment, for your dedication, for your selfless acts on behalf of this community, and to tell you that I'm very proud to have the opportunity to serve as your chief, and this city is very lucky to have men and women of your caliber willing to put themselves forward to protect it. So thank you. Well done.
Mayor, if you'd like to join us back on stage, I would also like our MC for the evening to please come to the stage. You will all recognize our MC for tonight's ceremony. As an anchor of the noon and 4 p.m. newscasts for CBS 58, Michelle McCormick brings the news daily to those in Southeast Wisconsin. She has been at CBS 58 since 2005, and last year was recognized by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association for her writing and reporting. She's a proud United States Air Force mom, and in her free time enjoys hiking, bicycling, and attending all the festivals Milwaukee has to offer. Please join me in welcoming Michelle McCormick. Thank you very much.
That's very nice.
Thank you.
For generations, men and women have put their personal safety at risk to hold the line for law and order. For some, it is the continuation of a family tradition. For others, they are the first of their kind. For all who take the oath, 3 things hold true: love of country, pride in service, and the sanctity of the badge. We call it the police life. It is an honor, after spending 11 years just talking about you all on the news, I get to personally say thank you. I can tell you that your stories, which I would tell my son often when I came home, inspired him to enter law enforcement. He's got 2 years in at security forces overseas in the U.S. Air Force. And so I couldn't be more pleased to represent him and our entire community in gratitude. And I know there are plenty of mothers out there right now waiting to say, I gave birth to a hero. So let's get started, right? For District 1, led by Captain Diana Rowe, Officer Xavier J. Benitez is receiving the Life-Saving Award. It was January 21st of this year. Officer Benitez dispatched to an injured sick person, 2900 block of North Marietta Avenue. Officer Benitez learned a man had collapsed while doing maintenance work. He was unconscious and not breathing. Officer Benitez immediately began chest compressions, effectively did them until the arrival of the Milwaukee Fire Department. The victim sent to the hospital, alive and in stable condition. A Milwaukee Fire Department lieutenant told a Milwaukee police sergeant that the victim would not be alive today were it not for the actions of Officer Benitez. Officers Ryan A. Duman, Jonathan Echevarria, and Christopher A. Monagold are receiving the Life-Saving Award. January 19th, 2017. These officers were dispatched to a welfare check, 100 block of West Wisconsin Avenue. A caller stated there was a man standing on the bridge, and he looked ready to jump into the icy river. The officers at first attempted to approach him, engage him in conversation, but he ignored them. So the officers climbed onto the concrete pillar where the man was standing and grabbed his arms. The officers assured the man, "We're trying to help you." and they safely took him into custody and transported him to Milwaukee County Mental Health. The heroic actions of these officers helped prevent a tragedy that night. Officer Stephen J. Pube Lee is receiving the Life-Saving Award. January 28th, Officer Pube Lee responded to a home in the 900 block of East Wells Street. The caller's daughter was unresponsive. She was trying to end her own life. Officer Pube Lee began chest compressions on the woman. Her pulse was restored. The woman was taken to the hospital for further medical treatment. Officer Pube Lee's quick response to the scene and life-saving actions helped save a woman's life and let a father see his daughter grow up. For District 2, led by Captain Heather Worth, the Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Christopher A. Benitez. October 10th, 2016, Officer Benitez dispatched to the 1500 block of South Union Street. A woman was there, a likely overdose. She had shallow breathing, and her eyes were rolling uncontrollably. Officer Benitez closed one nostril of her nose, inserted a syringe, and dispensed naloxone. The woman regained consciousness. She was later taken to the hospital for medical treatment. This decisive action saved the woman's life. Thank you, Officer Benitez. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officers Andrew J. Gollop, Adam M. Halas, how do you say it? Hallis. All right, Hallis, and Jacob E. Ivy. It's okay, officer, you can correct a reporter. We appreciate it. February 2nd, 2017. These officers responded to a report of a shooting, 1500 block of South 9th Street. The victim was a man. He had been shot in both legs. This guy was pale, having real trouble breathing. Officers Gollop and Hollis applied a tourniquet to each of the victim's legs to contain the loss of blood. Officer Ivy delivered rescue breaths with a pocket mask. The victim was transported to a local hospital, treated for his injuries. Quick thinking, heroic actions, determination. Another story of MPD saving a life. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officers Vance A. Scollin and Paul E. Zimborski. December 5th, 2016, Officer Scollin and Zimborski patrolling the 800 block of South Layton Boulevard. They were flagged down, a medical emergency at a gas station. The officers saw a woman turning blue, the result of an apparent overdose. Officer Scollin immediately began chest compressions, while Officer Zimborski retrieved the breathing mask to perform rescue breaths. After a few cycles of CPR, the woman's pulse restored. She was later taken to a local hospital for treatment. If not for the quick action of these officers, we might be reporting on another fatal overdose. Instead, there's a happy ending tonight. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officers Mark J. Sweeziak Jr. and Jason G. Warwick. October 4th, 2016. Officer Sweeziak and Warwick flagged down for an accident at the intersection of West Mitchell Street and South Muskego Street. The officers saw a moped in the intersection, a man on the ground. This guy was unconscious, had a severe arm injury. The officers stabilized the man's neck, called for medical attention, a supervisor, and additional squads. The officers rolled the man on his side into what's called the recovery position. Officer Sweeziak and Warwick kept the man in this recovery position until the fire department arrived. If not for the actions of these officers, this man's life may have ended at the scene. Another Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Paul E. Zimborski, and the Meritorious Service Award is presented to Officer Kristen Rieg. October 1st, 2016, several MPD officers responded to a stabbing in the 2100 block of South 25th Street. The officers found the victim, who was bleeding profusely. Officer Rieg attempted to keep the subject calm by continuously assuring him, hey, medical help is on the way. Officer Szymborski cut the front of the victim's shirt, tore it open in order to locate the wound. He then gathered a number of sterile gauze pads, covered the victim's exposed organs, and applied pressure to stop the bleeding. It was later determined the victim had suffered a stab wound from a sword that had passed completely through the body. If not for the rapid response and actions of these officers, this victim surely would have succumbed to his injuries. Wow. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Tabitha L. Krasinski, Adam P. Robakowski, and Jason G. Warwick. November 12, 2016, these officers responded to the 2100 block of West National Avenue, a guy with a knife. When they arrived, the man ran into the apartment, held the knife to his throat. The officers began a dialogue with the man, stabilized the scene. Following lengthy negotiations, he dropped the knife and was taken into custody. He was later treated at a local hospital for high levels of alcohol intoxication and mental health problems. These officers demonstrated great restraint while dealing with an armed man and showed exceptional patience. For District 3, led by Captain Shunte Boston Smith, Officer LaCarlin Davis is receiving 2 life-saving awards. Let's talk about the first incident. Do you remember it? January 9th, 2017? Officer Davis was off duty and on his way home when he saw a disturbance, 2300 block of South 26th Street. He was alone, but he chose to become involved and discovered that a citizen had been shot in the head. Officer Davis took charge of the scene, directed a citizen, call 911, get medical attention. The shooting victim, unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse. Officer Davis began CPR until the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived. Through his quick actions, the shooting victim was able to be transported to the hospital. His quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented the loss of life. Officer Davis and Officer Sean A. Toms are receiving a life-saving award for the following incident. On January 12, 2017, Officers Davis and Toms were dispatched to a crash in the area of 20th and Highland. The officers found a man seated in the driver's seat of a vehicle, unresponsive but breathing. Officers Davis and Toms called for medical attention and attempted to rouse the individual, but they were unsuccessful. Less than 2 minutes later, the male subject stopped breathing and no longer had a pulse. Officer Toms administered rescue breaths with a mask while Officer Davis began the chest compressions. After one full cycle of CPR, the man started to breathe and had a faint heartbeat. After being stabilized, the man was able to walk to the ambulance, where he was transported to a local hospital for further treatment. Officers Davis and Toms, directly responsible for saving this man's life through the prompt assessment and rapid use of CPR. Officer Matthew J. Wenzel is receiving a life-saving award, and Lucy Reyes-Argon is receiving the Meritorious Conduct Citizen Award. Hello? June 29, 2016, Officer Wenzel responded to a welfare check at an overpass bridge at North 16th and West Clybourne. A witness called 911 provided vital information regarding the behavior of a local teen preparing to jump. Ms. Reyes-Argon, a nurse who specializes in psychological needs, saw the teen in distress and positioned her vehicle into traffic. She sprinted over to the teen, immediately developed a rapport with him. This effective dialogue of Ms. Reyes-Argon allowed Officer Wenzel to successfully grab the suicidal teen by the waist and pull him to safety. Officer Wenzel and Ms. Reyes-Argon displayed teamwork and cooperation while working together to prevent a potentially tragic incident. Wow. For District 4, led by Captain Andre Williams, the Medal of Valor Combat Award is presented to Officers Jason J. Deering and Jesse M. Matson. The Purple Star Award is presented to Officer Shane M. Bishop. May 5th, 2016, this group responded to an armed robbery in progress at a business. As Officer Deering and Officer Madison arrived on the scene, they saw an armed suspect in the store. Officer Bishop took up position in the rear of the building when the suspect suddenly left the store, fled on foot, and the foot pursuit was on. The suspect tried to hide, but he was found a short time later behind a garage, and the officers attempted to take him into custody. At this time, the suspect began firing at our officers. Officers Deering and Madsen exchanged fire with the suspect, striking him several times. And once the suspect was taken into custody, it was revealed that Officer Bishop was struck on the left side of his chest by the bullet. Officer Bishop, thankfully, was wearing his ballistic body armor, and the bullet did not penetrate his body. During this deadly encounter, these officers exhibited extreme courage and focus and professionalism, and we are so glad to have each and every one of you here on this stage tonight. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Daryl L. Anderson. On October 18, 2016, a suspicious vehicle pulled into District 4 parking lot. Officer Anderson, along with other officers, went outside to check it out. The driver told the officers the passenger had overdosed on heroin. Officer Anderson obtained a CPR barrier mask, and another officer obtained a Narcan kit. The Narcan kit was administered, but the subject was not responsive. So Officer Anderson performed rescue breaths until the Milwaukee Fire Department responded. The subject was then transported to the hospital where he recovered. Officer Anderson's actions saved this man's life. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officer Nicholas R. Schley. Get that right? Okay, good. Because I plan on reporting on you for many years to come. On November 6, 2016, while serving as an early shift booker at District 4, Officer Schley was performing a regular cell check on a prisoner in the cell block. While doing so, he noticed the prisoner hanging motionless from a t-shirt he had tied into a noose around his neck. Officer Schley sounded the booker's alarm, opened the cell door, and cut the noose from around the neck. At the time, the prisoner was unconscious and not breathing. Officer Schley started to massage the prisoner's chest to try and prompt him to regain consciousness, and a short time later, the prisoner began breathing on his own, and his pulse was restored. Officer Schley's quick thinking and decisive action saved the life of a suicidal prisoner. The Excellence in Police Service Award is presented to Officer Christopher M. Shorts. Officer Shorts' primary responsibilities are focused on burglary investigations, which includes identifying trends, developing suspect information. And in the summer of 2016, Officer Shorts received information from the New Berlin Police Department. It was about a large burglary ring, recovered property. Officer Shorts was able to identify a rare wristwatch stolen from a Milwaukee couple and developed 2 suspects in the case. Now, both suspects were charged with multiple burglaries in District 4 and sentenced to prison time. In September of 2016, there was a traffic stop conducted in District 4 on a suspicious vehicle. The man inside that car had a large amount of stolen property, and it was Officer Shorts who recognized a jewelry box stolen in a recent burglary and returned it to its rightful owner. The suspect in that case was later charged in connection with 5 burglaries. Then in October of 2016, Officer Shorts received a call from a burglary victim stating his high-end camera that was stolen, and it was being sold on Craigslist. Officer Shorts orchestrated a purchase of the camera, and the suspect was eventually taken into custody. Not very smart, huh, Officer Shorts? What? So that guy gets the Dumb Criminal Award, but we honor Officer Shorts for finding that suspect, who was then charged with 6 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. Officer Shorts' actions, attitude, certainly in keeping with the highest traditions of police work. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Officers AJM Churkey, or is it Aja? Aja. Do I have that right? Yes. Okay, Aja. Close enough, no tell me. Aja. Okay, here we go. Take 2. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Officers Aja M. Churkey, Irving R. Hernandez Maestre, Jonathan M. Miller, and Lawrence E. Pope. It was January 8th of 2017. Officers Hernandez, Maestre, and Miller responded to the 5800 block of North 76th Street. They heard gunfire there. These officers saw numerous subjects firing shots, so they ran towards one of them and were able to take him quickly into custody. At the shooting scene, Officers Churkey and Pope found a woman who had been hit by the gunfire. They immediately began CPR until the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived. They then noticed a male citizen near the victim who had an empty gun holster. The citizen admitted to firing the shot and was taken into custody. This group of officers showed tremendous restraint while encountering armed individuals, and they remained vigilant in their duties. For District 5, led by Captain Timothy Heyer, Sergeant Barry T. Weissenborn is receiving the Life-Saving Award. October 13th, 2016, Sergeant Weissenborn responded to a call regarding an individual who was at a bridge, stating she was going to jump. The sergeant started a conversation with the woman, and he was able to build a rapport. He asked the woman if she wanted to get help, and she said yes. Sergeant Weissenborn's quick thinking, heroic actions, and determination prevented the loss of life. Officers Michael A. Gasser, Ryan M. Miller, and Suzanne L. Suida are receiving the Life-Saving Award. Gazer. Officer Michael L. Gazer, Ryan M. Miller, and Suzanne L. Suida are receiving the Life-Saving Award. On July 9, 2016, these officers were flagged down outside of District 5. Unresponsive man in the parking lot. The man wasn't breathing, didn't have a pulse. His eyes were rolled back and his skin was blue. Immediately, these officers started to perform chest compressions and rescue breaths. The officers were able to gain a pulse and get the subject to breathe on his own again, at which point Narcan was applied and the man started breathing again. And the Milwaukee Fire Department captain on the scene advised that it had not been for the actions of these officers, the subject would have died as a result of his heroin overdose. Thank you, officers. Sergeant Jeffrey S. Krieger and Police Officer Michael T. Driscoll and Cody C. Wetzel are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On September 20th, 2016, these officers responded to a shooting, 300 block North Holton. Upon arrival, the officers heard yelling inside a home, and a short time later, a woman came out. She had been shot, and she pointed to a male suspect. The suspect then ran towards the back door to try and block the officers. The officers approached the suspect in another room of the house. They ordered him to surrender. That suspect was then taken into custody and charged with the shooting. The officers' handling of this volatile and dangerous situation is to be commended, as they conducted themselves in a professional, tactful, cautious manner. Officers Chad E. Boyack, Andrew R. Gross, Daniel J. Sutek, and Brian N. Wonder are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. December 10th, 2016, Officers Wonder and Gross saw a suspicious vehicle with out-of-state license plates circling the area near North Fratney and East Chambers. A few minutes later, the driver of the vehicle took out a semi-automatic handgun and fired 2 shots at the officers. Thankfully, the officers were not injured and the vehicle sped off. Officers Boyack and Sutek caught up with the vehicle in the 4900 block of North 25th Street and saw the driver throw a gun out the window. The vehicle stopped a few minutes later, and the driver was taken into custody, the firearm recovered. The driver was charged with several crimes by the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. This fast response and keen attention to detail by these officers resulted in the quick apprehension of the suspect. Job well done. Boyack and Sutek, it sounds like the new Starsky and Hutch, right? They're ready for anything. Boyack and Sutek, tonight at 8. I love that. It's on tape. I'm holding that copyright. Officer Hector M. Sosa is receiving the Meritorious Service Award. On May 5th, 2006, Officer Sosa was assigned to the Criminal Justice Facility and was acting as a liaison officer. A St. Francis police officer at the facility took a prisoner to a nurse for a medical screening, and the prisoner proceeded to use the restroom. When the prisoner didn't come out, though, the St. Francis officer opened the door and quickly called for Officer Sosa. The man had a knife and was bleeding. Officer Sosa ran to help the St. Francis officer. He ordered the prisoner drop the knife and then rendered first aid. The prisoner was transported to a local hospital for further treatment. Officer Sosa demonstrated courage and exceptionally quick thinking when confronted with an individual who was determined to cause harm. For District 6, led by Captain Jeffrey Point, the Meritorious Service Award is presented to Sergeant Robert S. Teal. November 10th, 2016, Sergeant Teal responded to a suspicious auto complaint, 3500 block of South 27th. When he got there, he saw a van parked next to the store. Now, as Sergeant Teal began to investigate, a number of subjects fled from the store through a smashed window. Sergeant Teal tried to stop a subject entering the van and realized he was about to be pinned, so he jumped inside the van. Inside the van, there was a huge struggle between 2 of the subjects and Sergeant Teal. The driver eventually stopped the van, and backup squads helped Sergeant Teal take 5 suspects into custody. Further investigation found stolen clothing and shoes inside the van. MMA has nothing on the MPD. Sergeant Teal's actions and decisiveness helped bring about the successful arrest of 5 suspects. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Officers Michael J. Dietrich and Stephen A. Pinchard. March 6, 2016, the officers responding to a shooting at a building in the 3300 block of South 92nd Street. A witness told the officers the gunman was in an upstairs unit. The officers began to speak with the suspect when suddenly the suspect left the apartment complex with a rifle over his shoulder and began walking towards the officers. These officers ordered the suspect to drop his weapon, which he eventually did and was placed into custody. The officers realized the danger the suspect had posed. He had just shot 3 people. The urgency to stop the threat was there, and these quick and decisive actions stopped the suspect from inflicting further injuries. The Valorous Conduct Citizen Award is presented to Mr. Abram Cavazzo and his brother Matthias. March 10, 2017, 17-year-old Abram and his 12-year-old brother Matthias were with the family at a hotel swimming pool on Milwaukee's South Side. Matthias was in the pool when he noticed a young boy sinking toward the bottom. Matthias quickly swam down and retrieved the unconscious boy. Matthias then started CPR on the boy, and a short time later, Abram took over the CPR. The brothers continued to work until the boy regained consciousness. The young child was later transported to a local hospital where he recovered. Both Matthias and Abram were assertive In their recognition to render aid to someone in need, they took immediate action, and due to their swift and valiant efforts, a child survived. For District 7, led by Captain Boris Tursinovich. Or is it Tursinovich? No, Tursinovich, right? Okay, I was right the first time. Officer Evan L. Domini is receiving the Medal of Valor Combat Award, and Officer Andrew J. Schnell is receiving the Meritorious Service Award. January 5th, 2017, these officers conducted a traffic stop of a vehicle wanted in regards to a homicide. The vehicle, parked in the 3900 block of North 72nd Street. It was occupied by a driver and a passenger. During the traffic stop, the passenger pointed a loaded gun at Officer Domini. Officer Domini quickly grabbed the suspect's firearm to prevent him from being shot. Officer Domini twisted the firearm out of the suspect's hand. Officer Schnell helped his partner by decentralizing the suspect and taking him into custody. The suspect was later interviewed and stated he was intent to have the officer shoot and kill him. The bravery and courage of these officers during this incident demonstrates their commitment to the citizens of Milwaukee. We ask Officer Schnell to stay on stage as he is receiving a life-saving award. October 29, 2016, Officer Schnell was in his personal vehicle and driving home after completing his shift. At the intersection of Fond du Lac and Center, he saw a Milwaukee Police squad car in the middle of an intersection dealing with an uncooperative man. The other officer told Officer Schnell the man had just been shot. Officer Schnell immediately started to assist with first aid. Officer Schnell, still wearing his duty belt, had the other officer retrieve his tourniquet and hand it to him. Officer Schnell then applied the tourniquet to the subject's leg, and the other officer applied direct pressure to the subject's injury. They did this until the Milwaukee Fire Department arrived on the scene, and had it not been for Officer Schnell showing up when he did with the tourniquet and getting involved, the victim may not have survived. Sergeant David M. Fuerte is receiving the Meritorious Service Award. November 1st, 2016, Sergeant Fuerte was flagged down by a school bus driver in the 6000 block of West Burleigh. She said there was a girl on board, a female student armed with a knife on the bus. The student was making statements that she was going to harm the driver. Sergeant Fuerte told the passengers on the bus, get out of the vehicle for their safety. And then Sergeant Fuerte, who has crisis intervention team training, started to talk with this student and began to diffuse a potentially violent situation. After several minutes of conversation, she dropped her knife and was taken into custody. Sergeant Fuerte, through his courageous actions and calm demeanor, brought a peaceful end to a very tense situation. Officer Matthew J. Terpstra is receiving the Meritorious Service Award. December 31st, 2016, Officer Terpstra was monitoring a large crowd gathering near a bar in the 4200 block of Burleigh. Officer Terpstra suddenly heard multiple gunshots, and as a one-man squad, he headed straight to the scene. He found two subjects shooting back and forth at each other and gave a chase to one of the subjects. He quickly took that subject into custody for recklessly endangering safety. Officer Terpstra willfully entered a dangerous situation and tactfully and tactically engaged with an armed subject. His quick actions caused an active shooter to stop and reduce the risk of further injury to the citizens in the immediate area. Mr. Melvin L. Reese is receiving the Meritorious Conduct Award. Melvin Reese has served for 29 years. Wow. As an auxiliary with the Milwaukee Police Department, much of that time in District 7. He has completed the MPD Citizens Academy and the FBI Citizens Academy. He also serves as a faith-based chaplain. Mr. Reese is dedicated to helping the citizens of Milwaukee through his volunteer efforts for the last 3 decades. For the Intelligence Fusion Center, led by Captain David Salazar, the Meritorious Service Award is presented to crime analyst Keisha A. Harper. Analyst Harper's duties and responsibilities include supporting the North Investigations Division and providing case support to the Robbery Task Force. December 2016, Analyst Harper became aware that a juvenile offender was arrested as a potential subject involved in driving a stolen vehicle in an armed robbery. Several other unidentified actors were able to get away from police. Using various investigative and intelligence gathering techniques, Analyst Harper was able to identify the offenders the juvenile was associating with. This intelligence, along with possible locations, was provided to the Robbery Task Force. So officers were able to conduct surveillance and located 4 suspects they believed to be responsible and took them into custody. These suspects were found to be in possession of a loaded rifle. Analyst Harper effectively analyzed relevant information and reached independent decisions about what was important and to whom. She devoted time and energy while persistently pursuing leads, and boy, did it pay off. For the Metropolitan Investigations Division, led by Captain Paul Formolo, Detectives Eric M. Goldbranson and James F. Hutchinson are receiving the Excellence in Police Service Award. Assistant District Attorney Grant Hubner is receiving the Meritorious Conduct Award. In 2011 and 2012, there was a series of shootings, fatal and non-fatal, connected to a group of suspects who identified themselves as the Uptown Boys. One of the suspects was involved in 3 homicides and a non-fatal shooting. This suspect was determined to kill any witnesses who he felt may cooperate with law enforcement. These detectives and Assistant District Attorney Hubner worked together and built a case against this suspect. Charges were issued against the suspect, and in 2016, a jury found him guilty, and a judge sentenced him to 2 consecutive life terms with no possibility for parole. The efforts of this group highlights MPD's partnership with the District Attorney's Office to get violent offenders once and for all off our streets. Mr. Kevin D. Little is posthumously receiving the Valorous Conduct Citizen Award. Tonight, his parents are here with us to accept it on his behalf. October 20th, 2015, the Milwaukee Fire Department responded to a house fire, 5600 block of North 36th Street. 2 children, 10-year-old Kevin and his cousin, 2-year-old Tanaje, trapped in an upstairs bedroom. Firefighters found the 2 children under a mattress. Kevin was lying on top and shielding Tanaje. Tragically, both children would die. It was later determined the fire was intentionally set, and a suspect was later arrested for the crime. Based upon interviews, Kevin's grandmother said Kevin woke her up to alert her to the fire. And as she gathered the other children to get out of the house, Kevin ran back to Tanaje's bedroom. Kevin, only 10, demonstrated exemplary courage under the most extreme circumstances. By alerting his grandmother, he saved her life and the lives of 2 younger siblings and 2 younger cousins. Then, in the ultimate act of bravery, he returned to Tanaje's bedroom. It will never be known why Kevin and Tanaje couldn't escape, but it is clear he chose to stay with her rather than abandon her. Kevin disregarded his own safety and his life for the lives of his family members. He is forever young. We are forever in his debt. Neighborhood Task Force led by Captain Leslie Teeley. The life-saving award is presented to Sergeant Corey L. Stray and officers Sarah M. Beeland, Lori C. Borchert, Elagio Cavazos III, Deontay T. King, Gerald M. Coolwich Jr., Austin M. Richards, Adam J. Rush, and Kevin D. Tipton. November 24th, 2016, Sergeant Stray on patrol in the Bayview neighborhood. He smelled smoke. Sergeant Stray quickly came upon a house in the 600 block of East Dover. It was engulfed in flames. Sergeant Stray alerted the other officers to the situation. The group entered the home and helped evacuate 9 people, many of them who were asleep at the time. The occupants all made it to safety thanks to the actions of these officers. Vigilant, quick response, and a call to serve that's not defined by just a list of duties, but to go in and save life at all costs. Congratulations, one and all. Yeah, we got to get a group picture of this. I know my colleague Evan Krugel interviewed this group. You can see it tonight on the CBS 58 News at 10. You got to fill the dead air with a plug, don't you? I mean, you don't want me to complain about what it's like to tweet out Chief Flynn at a press conference, right? You know how to spell ameliorate ever? Or cumulatively? Awesome job. The Life-Saving Award is presented to Officers Stephen J. Cuspa, John H. Larson, Guadalupe A. Ramirez Cervantes, and Robert J. Wilkinson. And Mr. Eddie Ramirez Perez is receiving the Valorous Conduct Citizen Award. December 17th, 2016, Mr. Ramirez Perez in the 2600 block of South Chase Avenue heard screaming. Nearby, 2 men had fallen through the ice and they were struggling. Mr. Ramirez Perez called 911, found a tarp, and lowered it to the man whose head was going underwater, and told him, grab onto it. He held onto the tarp to keep the victim from drowning until the officers arrived on scene. This group of officers got a piece of rope and rescued both men from the frigid water. The victims were then transported to a local hospital for treatment. This group showed teamwork by working together and putting their own lives at risk to help 2 men in need. The Meritorious Service Award is presented to Officer Kent D. Tussle. On November 30th, 2016, Officer Tussle was near North 9th Street and West State Street when he saw several people arguing near a vehicle. A few seconds later, the officer heard 2 gunshots coming from the direction of the argument. Well, he approached the car, told the driver, put your hands up, and removed a loaded gun from the driver's lap. The driver, who is a convicted felon, was taken into custody and later charged with recklessly endangering safety and felon in possession of a firearm. Officer Tussle took quick and decisive action during a dangerous and volatile situation. For the North Investigations Division led by Captain William Beauchesne, Detectives Gina A. Melanchi, Marco Y. Salam, and Michael J. Slumcheski. They are receiving the Meritorious Service Award. Detectives Vanessa M. Harms, Philip C. Simmert II, Michael J. Tannum, and Officer Christopher M. Heidemann from the Intelligence Fusion Center are also receiving the Meritorious Service Award. Assistant District Attorney Megan M. Williamson is receiving the Meritorious Conduct Award. May 2015, this team began an investigation into a group who was committing armed robberies and carjackings. This group was called the .25 caliber crew because of the casings from the weapons they were using. The MPD team interviewed victims and witnesses, executed search warrants, processed recovered vehicles, and developed suspects. MPD worked with the DA's office to develop a criminal complaint against a suspect, and this suspect was charged, a jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to more than 40 years in prison. Because of this team's dedication, the suspect was held accountable for the crimes he committed. For the Office of Community Outreach and Education, led by Captain Ray Banks, the Meritorious Conduct Award is presented to Ms. Sadie M. Adams. Ms. Adams was appointed to the Milwaukee Police Department in 1991 as an auxiliary member. She is still currently active 25 years later. She has met the requirements, obeyed and executed to the best of her ability the orders designated with this assignment. She has demonstrated commitment and has made a significant contribution above and beyond the ordinary call of duty to District 7. In 1997, she was awarded the title Auxiliary of the Year. Auxiliary Adams is recognized for her outstanding work by being presented with the Meritorious Conduct Award. We now welcome the following members on stage as they are receiving the Excellence in Police Service Award for their work on the Wild 100s investigation. Detective Guy J. Fraley, Detective Kent U. Gordon, Detective Stephen N. Jagan, Detective Stephen N. Jagan, Detective Kyle R. Morzinski, Detective Jake D. Pushnig, Detective Christopher K. Schlachter, Officer Christopher D. Conway, Officer Jonathan E. Forner, Officer James R. Jordan, Officer Travis J. Young, and Officer Christopher S. Navarrete. 2015. This group, which included MPD members, the FBI, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Drug Enforcement Agent, Department of Justice, Department of Corrections, the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, and the Racine Police Department. They all joined together to combat a violent street gang known as the Wild 100s. This group executed dozens of search warrants, made more than 250 arrests, recovered more than 100 firearms, and seized a whole bunch of drugs. These arrests helped solve various crimes, and the violent offenders were prosecuted on both state and federal levels. This group's work ethic and professionalism helped bring justice to victims and safety to the streets of Milwaukee's Northwest Side. We conclude with the Unit Service Award and recognizing the MPD Robbery Task Force. From the Milwaukee Police Department, Captain William Beauchene, Lieutenant Paul Lau, Sergeants Amy Bartle, Paul Borquist, Stephen Herman, Misty Torres, Paul Viljavik, and Wisam Yagnam. Detectives Michael Alice, David Anderson, Rodolfo Alvaredo, Ryan Bergman, Eric Drager, Guy Fraley, Matthew Goldberg, Mark Harms, Daniel Knitter, Gina Melanchi, Jake Pushnig, Stephanie Rams-Kugler, Marco Salam, William Sheehan, and Michael Slumcheski. Police officers Harold Almas, Matthew Brooks, Jeffrey Klein, Philip Ferguson, Travis Young, Louis Kopeski, Richard Litwin, Ross Miller, Jose Ramirez, Joseph Sirio, and Stephen Strasser. In addition, we ask these law enforcement partners to join us on stage. from the FBI, Ben Ruse, Aaron Lucker, and Brad Simmons. We also ask to join us on the stage at this time from the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office, Investigator Matt Gibson. In 2015, the City of Milwaukee experienced an increase in carjackings, where vehicles were stolen from victims, many times at gunpoint. Due to the violent nature of these crimes, it became clear that a dedicated joint investigative and patrol effort was needed to curb this problem. The Robbery Task Force began in December of 2015 and investigated carjacking offenses, identified suspects who had participated in these crimes, and assembled criminal cases to bring these offenders to prosecution. In the first month alone, carjackings decreased by almost 50% citywide. And dozens of offenders were arrested, leading to multiple criminal charges. The task force has been recognized as a regional asset and regularly helps suburban agencies in their carjacking investigations when they coincide with local investigations. This unrelenting and tireless effort by these men and women have brought justice and closure to the citizens of Milwaukee. Jobdone. Job well done. And we thank the families as well, because we know there were a lot of missed birthday parties and baseball games while all this work was going on. Thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. Tonight makes it worth it, right? Come on forward. Nobody wants to go in front. Isn't that nice to see some humility too? We're going to do a row at a time because Chief Lynn said so, right? Yeah, come on. Get a nice picture. Because then it's back to work tomorrow. Wonderful. Thank you so much again for inviting me so I can personally take part in this, and thank you. My hope for you is that you truly rise and triumph over the cruelty in this world. Godspeed to one and all. Godspeed. Thank you.
Stay here for just a second. Thank you. Michelle, thank you for your help tonight. We present you this small token of our appreciation. It's a bag of Milwaukee PD swag. And for those of you that want MPD swag, you can buy it in the hallway. So we'd just like to say again, thank you.
Is my get out of jail card free in here?
It's in there. Thank you. I would just like to take take a moment to, again, one last round of applause for all of our award recipients. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you, families. Thank you, children, who behaved incredibly well this evening in this very hot room. We do have refreshments and cookies across the hall for you, so please stop in room 182 for refreshments provided by the Recreational Association of Milwaukee Police. Also, feel free to walk around the building and view our historical displays and the memorials to fallen officers in the corridor to your right. Once again, I'd like to put out a couple thank yous. Milwaukee Police Band, retired Lieutenant Karen Dubas, you're fantastic. The Milwaukee Police Department Honor Guard, Miss Elizabeth Lesdesma, who does coordinate our Merit Awards ceremony, and our committee that is led by Inspector Terrence Gordon. Mr. Bill Bono in the print shop for tonight's program, our MC for tonight, Miss Michelle McCormick, and of course the Academy staff that staffs this whole event, our auxiliaries and our police aides. Thank you all for coming this evening. Have a great night.